Hi there. Today's video is about The Halloween Tree by Bradbury. Thought I'd go a little bit darker with the lighting, a little more Halloweeny. This book is good. I would say it's better for young adults or children, but it's still enjoyable as an adult. I would say maybe it'd be better if you had a kid to read it with them, because some children's books make you want to pull your hair out, but this is one you can actually enjoy. It is creepy but not scary. Like, I know when I was a 4-year old, Harry Potter scared me, and this probably would have scared me because I was like a baby, like Scooby Doo scared me. But it's actually not that scary. And there are a lot of cool imagery in it, cool things, a little bit of the history of Halloween, and a little bit of danger, adventure as well. The kids in this book are supposed to be 13 or 12, but they act like they're 10 or 11 to me. That's a little bit of a nitpick, but this was written in the 70s. Maybe children aged slower back then. I don't know. But, or maybe just it was more wholesome to present them as being younger. But the story 13 or 12-year-olds, Halloween night, they're all dressed up in costumes, and one of their friends gets sick. And then Mr. Moundshroud, Capris Clavicle Moundshroud, he takes them on this adventure through the history of Halloween, takes them to different countries. They see witches, gargoyles, Day of the Dead in Mexico, and they save their friend. It's not going to be a long review here. It's just a good story. It's a good book. If you're super into character and plot, this isn't great for that. The characters have almost no personality at all. The main character, Tom Skelton, is the main character because his name Skelton is like skeleton, like his costume. That's pretty much it. And they're just boys that are like, oh gosh, oh geez, oh man, like that kind of stuff. And Mr. Moundshroud, he's a very interesting character. He makes interesting things happen, but you don't really get to see his motivations and depths and anything like that. And at the end, they allude to it, but he is death. He is the Grim Reaper. And it's interesting that he's being nice to these kids and giving them a chance to see their friend again. This book doesn't paint death. I would say it doesn't make death out to be this horrible, scary thing. It shows that it's a part of life, shows how different cultures throughout history have dealt with it. And there are some cool things in this book as well. There's a scene when they're meeting the old druid god, and he had a scythe. It's like how we see the Grim Reaper with a scythe, and he was cutting down people and laughing. And then the Romans cut him down and put it in their gods, and the Christians then destroyed them and put in their own gods. And Moundshroud says, always the same. Old gods replaced by new gods. Always different, always the same. It's just a cool take on history that throughout showing how things would just replace other things. Like, oh, this is horrible, and they would kill it and then put something in new, and then that would get killed by the next person. It's just interesting. And then seeing witches, how he said they couldn't actually do anything, but they thought that they could. They pretended they could. And I'm realizing now talking this review is a little rambly, but this book's a little rambly. It's like, oh, hey, we're going here, then hey, we're going here, then hey, we're going here. Like I said, plot, there isn't much of a plot. The boys don't even really know that they know they're trying to get their friend, but they don't really know what they're doing. They're just being led along scene to scene by Moundshroud. He is the conductor. He said, okay, boys, we have to go here now. And then, yes, boys, but wait, what's next, boys? And he always has the answer. And at the end, he gives them a bargain to save their friend Pipkin's life, which I liked a lot. It wasn't kiddie at all. It was very contemplative and a little bit serious. I like when stories have some serious parts and some light parts. And this book definitely has that. At the end, the boys are given the choice to give up a year of their lives to save their friend. And they do it. And I like the death that Mr. Moundshroud gave them this choice. It was an interesting take on character of death. I don't see a whole lot of them in fiction. Personally, I'm sure there's some out there. What? Family Guy has the death character. Who else? I was just thinking of one. Shit. Who the fuck was I thinking about? What? Who the fuck was I just thinking about? So it's an interesting take on death, that he would want to give the boys a chance to save their friend's life. He even says about how death having different forms, and he says, "And me, Mr. Moundshroud, friend of the children." So it's interesting there would be a form of death that would appear to children and be nicer and kinder to them. He even starts off the night by showing them the Halloween tree, and it's this cool spectacle. All the pumpkins are lit up in a tree with different faces. There's like a song. It's not how you would generally see death. And I like that. This book, I would say it puts into context a bit. That death does happen. That it's not good. It can be scary, but there's ways to deal with it. There's other things, other parts to it as well. So overall, it's a pretty good book. I wish I had read it as a kid. My mom probably didn't because she knew I was a scaredy cat, but or maybe she didn't know about the book. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it to children and adults who have some childhood heart as well. I will say, after reading the Harry Potter books recently, I was getting through this a little bit slower, even though this is a seventh of the length, just because the plot and the character isn't there, but the scenery, the imagery, the message of the story is worth it, I will say. And the one question that I always think about with this book is, what would I give up a year of my life for? I like that bargain they make, because you don't know how long you're going to live. If you're going to live till 90, a year, whatever. It's easy to say that now when you're young, but when you're old, if you're 80 and they say give a year of your life, would you do that? If you're 6, like these boys are 12, so a year of their life seems like whatever. But then, what if you're only going to live till 29? So if you gave up that year, you'd only live till 28. So it's just interesting to think, what would you give up that year for, not knowing how long you had? Because it's easy to assume that we'll all live till 90, but a lot of people don't. You don't know. What's worth it? Would you do it for? I don't know. I'm not sure what I would do it for. I think to save an immediate family member, I would. But then I think of, stories where the devil makes a bargain like that. They save the loved one, and the next day the loved one dies of something else. So you could say, maybe the boy saved Pipkin, and then he dies a week later. You don't know. Oh, that's it for the Halloween tree. This is another one where I recommend the audiobook too. If you're not a reader, if you want it for in the car. I actually heard this first in audiobook. I think Audible did a special last Halloween or something, so I bought it for real cheap. And the performance is great. Brings Moundshroud and the other characters to life. I recommend that print or audiobook version for this. Alright, until the next time, may you live forever or die in the attempt.